Ayo, welcome to Benchwarmers, a WOSO podcast, episode 45. 45, Leggy. I only have one for 45. I don't know if you have one in the mix.
No.
I reckon we might have the same one. We don't have the same one. You don't have one. I've got one for you. I've got our non-Tilly Australian, the move to Juventus in Annelies Rasmussen, dropping deep in the 45, on the half turn, on the 45 as well. But yeah, let us know, anyone else in the Benchwarmers comms, let us know if you have another 45.
We missed out on 44 because
What do you mean we missed out on
44 for
Is she 44
LCL?
for LCL? No way.
Yeah.
That's some serious juju right there. Like, that's some Kang juju. That was 43, by the way. So we're always 1 week behind, but I cannot believe Muppy's taken 44. I mean, there's a lot going on in the world of WOSO. We will get to those contracts, extensions, rumors, and retirements in part 2, but we are going to continue on from Germany, from Italy. We're actually at part 5, Leggy. Part 5 of the end of season wrap. We are up to the ARKEMA France ball. What can I say? Our favorite league? Probably not. Probably not. But it is a league that does have some ridiculous talent in it. Some ridiculous talent that might actually be leaving as well, potentially, as we get to the rumors later on. But we do have to kick things off with our ARKEMA team of the season. It's an interesting team of the season to build. As someone who like we follow the ARKEMA, it's a very weird dynamic with how the monopoly / triopoly is set up, in the sense of that the 3 teams that make Europe kind of facilitate their squads a bit differently in the second half of the season, and how they manage for that is so probably taken into account in our respective team of the seasons.
Definitely. And I think that we obviously recognize that there are players outside of the top 3, but if we're looking at pure impact and really legacy as well, I think both of our teams have players who have done the hard yards in France and thus have a bit of a body of work to build from their catalogue and from what they've been able to do in the Ligue 1. But I think that we both have a good mixture of at least those top 3 teams of Paris, PSG and Lyon.
To be fair, you have to shout out Nantes as well, Nantes and Dijon, who did work their socks off to get a semblance of closeness to Paris FC. But Paris FC, PSG, bar their obvious point deduction, which we will get into later in the program, were immensely impressive in comparison to their counterparts down the 5th to 9th part of the league in that ARKEMA pack. We got to kick it off with our 11. I want to know who you got, who you left out. Let's go through the mix.
Yeah, so my goalkeeper is Chavez from Paris FC. Played every minute for Paris FC in her first season after returning to France from Real Madrid, where she was playing backup for Misa, and only got 12 games in those 2 seasons at Real Madrid. Statistically, she's arguably the best keeper in the league, I believe, based on how much she's played and then how much she's been able to help that Paris FC have the second best defense in the league. She conceded 19 goals and kept 13 clean sheets with a 76.3% save rate. Outside of the stats, she's fundamentally assisted Paris again in holding that second best defense in the league. And I think that we've seen a genuine growth from this player. I think that it's indicative of what has been happening at Paris FC in trusting these players who come back to France and who are doing the jobs that they need to do at this really big now institution in France. I mean, we've seen as a club for the women's team, Paris have done very well, but I think as an institution now, this one club mentality is really working for Paris FC, and she is a real product of that. She's a great leader between the sticks, and I really hope to see more of her as she's entering into that prime age of a goalkeeper after 28.
There's a lot of good goalkeepers in the ARKEMA, I'll be honest. I mean, we spoke about in the World Cup qualifiers, we spoke about Constance Picot and her importance in taking Paru Magnon's spot. I mean, Chavas is the same situation, right, where you have a player that could definitely take the reins and they're going to fight it out for it. Ultimately, one with a lot more goals prevented than the other, both of them with high save percentages. Chavas's goals prevented record is quite immensely impressive in comparison to the remainder of the league, where, I mean, I'm not really a tactico XG merchant where I look at that kind of thing, but like to have 4 extra goals prevented is seriously crazy numbers. That means you're saving point blank range shots. That means you're saving like high percentage chances. You're like winning games on your own. I do think the second best defense in the league thing is kind of a misnomer in the sense of that the goals prevented category don't really consider the point deduction, don't they? They consider those 3 games. They consider those 3 games as 9 goals conceded. Am I wrong in saying that, or do they?
I presume maybe if they all go down as 3-0 losses. As
right, yeah. So they all go down as 3-0 losses. 100% they go down as 3-0 losses. That's not the question. The question would be whether it counts towards the problem is, does it count directly towards Mary Earps, right? So those 3 goals conceded, the Strasbourg 3-0, the Le Havre 3-0, and the Fleury 3-0, where Florian George played, even though she played before that, which is hilarious. But I think if those count, obviously they are the 3rd best defense in the league. But the fact that they've caught up is a testament to Chavas. It's a testament to that Paris FC backline, which are getting a few head nods. If you ask me, I think there are some players that have been looked at. Hossein has already been talked about in the transfer market, and potentially, I mean, she's been there for 5 years. I don't know if she's going to extend her contract as a 25-year-old with that much versatility. I mean, we'll get into their fullbacks at some point, I assume, because I mean, there's a lot of unsung heroes in this respective team that definitely can only get better so long as they hold on to the products that they have.
Yeah, and I think if we go on to the fullbacks, or really my left centre back, because I am playing that 3-5-2 again.
Far out.
I am going
in France as well.
Yeah, in France.
It's not like France. It's not like I don't think France in their history, their entire history, have had a team that plays 3 at the back. I would be shocked. I would be shocked.
Oh well,
I
would presume Lyon, only because maybe
back in the day it's a 5. Yeah. Maybe that would make sense.
But that left-sided centre back is going to Lou Bogart. I think she.
Oh yeah, Lou. Yeah, I didn't know if you'd get into your team. Fair enough.
She got in, and it was look. I think that fullbacks in France are their own kind of beasts, because they're either doing incredible defensive work, or they're at Lyon being basically second wingers,
or they're Sandy Baltimore.
Yeah. But I found that I wanted to add a defensive player from the 3 best defenses in the league, kind of like what we've done for a majority of our team of the seasons. Lou Bogart has started 23 games, but did play all 24. She's 22 years old. She's a left fullback, and she has been in the starting lineup for Paris FC in the last 3 seasons. And I think this is basically in tandem with the trajectory, or the upwards trajectory, of Paris FC basically since the start of the 2020s. Her consistency is probably the most noteworthy thing about her season and separates her from her peers. I mean, she's a truly complete fullback, contributing to build-up. She's also helping in defense. She's a dual-winning machine, both aerially and on the ground. She wins nearly a third of all respective duels. That's pretty incredible for a player who's not necessarily that tall, but is incredibly strong. She makes over 4 defensive contributions every 90 minutes. She is a real do-or-die fullback, and I just love the relentlessness about her. And plus, she also scored one of the best goals of the season. That didn't make my goal of the season, which we'll talk on later on. But in round 8, she scored a really nice kind of half volley, and it just goes to show her versatility. Are you talking about
the one against Montpellier?
Yes, I am.
The one against Montpellier was that was a pretty impressive game. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't mention her dribbling. She gets out of trouble so nicely, and then obviously Paris FC, I mean, we'll get to their midfielders at some point, because their midfielders are what I think have pulled them through this season. I think Boggart's rise to prominent I mean, I'm impressed you got her into your team of the season. I just couldn't find a way for her to jump in. But the back end of her season, the last 5 games of her season, okay, yes, the Lyon game, the 5-0 in the final, is a misnomer because, I mean, everyone's going to get packed in 5-0 by the Titans in a full-strength team post the Champions League final defeat. But I think it is very impressive the way she finished off the season, the way Paris FC finished off their season, just goals, and she was involved in that. I think she was able to push up more against teams like Dijon are no scrubs. Like they were pushing hard. They were trying to get into that top 4, top 5 race, and they held them off. They beat Lyon 6-2. She was on the score. She was in the score sheet, not necessarily like in the goal category, but her goal contributions will only improve. She's only 22 years old, so I'm hoping that more European form, more European moments. I think that would be the only thing I would ask from her, in the sense of that her game, her form in Europe can only improve. Like, I'm not criticizing her form in Europe, because ultimately you're coming up against teams with more European experience. I mean, even going up against OH Leuven at their home ground is a tough ask, right? There's no guarantee that you're gonna beat them, but like, they started well, but then they pulled away and they worked hard on her side, especially. Like, it's something that you're going to have to learn with a young squad, right? This was a squad that was playing, like OH Leuven is considered a young squad. They were matching them for age, right? So like, they're only going to improve that capacity to present and facilitate a newfound French pedigree within Europe.
And the thing is that unlike PSG, Paris are keeping their players. So there must be something alluring about Paris FC and the club. And as I mentioned before, that institution, which is a bit more one club than PSG. But alongside Boguet, I have Mbok in my centre-back. Arguably one of the most important players for PSG in a defence that has been anything but reliable. Mbok has had another solid season in the Ligue 1, having spent the majority of her career winning trophies at Lyon. I can only commend a player from doing the reverse of what a lot of players do, which is go from Lyon to PSG. I think that is a pretty good indicator of the mentality of this player. I think to kind of abandon what is secured success for building a project, building something that you are going to be the hegemon of. She is the most reliable centre-back in that team, the player who they most look to, both in the forward line as well. She's scored a few goals this season as well, but of course, aerially in defence, her like last-ditch efforts, her recoveries, they're all kind of symbolic of a player that is very much a leader in this side, a leader in a side that does not have a lot of leaders. And I think that she is really leading in terms of what that defense should be looking like for PSG across every single line, if you like. She's making 7.1 defensive contributions per 90. That's one of the best in the league. She's also their best distributor, and that is a really underrated statistic. She's the top
I was going to say
stats for accurate passes and accurate long balls over 90 minutes. This is pretty resounding for a centre-back. Like, usually in the French leagues, we don't necessarily see those ball-playing centre-backs, but she is really leading on that. And I presume it's taking from the Lyon model and bringing it over. And I think that that's really important. As I mentioned earlier, it's unsurprising with her height and her aerial ability. She's also one of the few centre-backs that we're seeing goals from as well. And I think she's a pretty all-round centre-back, someone not necessarily weighed down by their age either, or maybe the experience that they may carry from Lyon. This is a player that's really distinct in their purpose for PSG, and I'm kind of surprised that she hasn't, picked up favours from other teams around Europe, because I think she and that archetype of centre-back is very much desired.
Yeah, I think that she's kind of like one of the easiest players to put in as like a conceptual, like if you're setting up a season for the ARKEMA and you have like some sure things, if you were doing a team of the season prediction pre-season, she's probably the easiest player to put in based on how many times she puts PSG on her back. Even the goal she scored against Strasbourg in I think it was what was the last game of the regular season of the ARKEMA is just a ridiculous like capacity to have in her game. I mean, her legacy with Lyon, not let alone the stuff she's done for France as well. Like she's always just a mainstay, and it's because her levels never wavered. I think there is probably a lucrative nature to her contract at PSG, which is why I assume it's hard for me to question her ambition when she has just completed football. Like she's won every trophy. I can't tell her, oh, you should leave PSG because you're 31 years old. You still got enough, like Renard's 35. You've still got plenty of time to just keep going at this level. But the reality is, what is there what is there for her to prove when you're a Parisian who should be playing in PSG? That makes sense. You're playing for your childhood club, and you've won everything you need to win with the best French club in the world, and everyone respects you. Everyone recognizes your brilliance. I kind of think that this season, I don't know if it was necessarily like it was probably her better than her prior season at PSG, but I still think that there is just something. I think maybe it is just tethered to not necessarily your bias, but my bias in looking at PSG as a project that should be greater than it is, and I think I take it out on the leaders rather than, I don't take it out on players like Echegini and Yaya and Olimbi, right? I take it out on Kanjinga, who is a ridiculously good footballer. I take it out on De Almeida, who has legacy in this sport. I take it out on Mbok and Olga, because these players have won things. These players have done things in this sport that players can only dream of, and they still sit here at the end of the season trophyless, as if that's just something you can just hold your head up and be like, oh, this is where we are. We can't compete with this other team that is just lucrative. But it's not just it's not even just an economical dominance anymore. It's a cultural. They don't believe they can beat them. They don't actually. It's no longer the PSG days of Katoto and Diani where there was a true belief that there was you could go toe to toe with them. It's now got to a point where their second is also quite underwhelming, even though they've held off Paris FC on the table. The playoff performance wasn't good enough. I think that's where I look at that 1-0 and I think to myself, oh, does Mbok get in despite the fact that, yes, they weathered the storm and she had all these defensive contributions? Why is she having that many defensive contributions if you're second on the table? It's a very much like a cycle where it's not her fault. She is a brilliant defender, and I understand anyone who watches the ARKEMA who would put Mbok in their team of the season. I personally haven't, but it's based on it's not based on her performances. It's a symptom of the culture of the club that makes me feel like if I'm admitting she's been the best defender, it's an admission of PSG being poor and she's saving them.
I guess that there's also something to the fact that the club of PSG actually takes up the moniker or the symbolic representation of someone like Lyon in the men's side. So Lyon in the women's side is basically PSG in the men's side if we look at the fiscal advantages that PSG have. And unfortunately, when you're faced up against a juggernaut like Lyon, you settle. And we've seen it from Real Madrid as well. It becomes a bit of a mental battle as much as a battle on the pitch. And we can only respect the players who are actually doing it consistently, something that Mbok has been doing, because we recognize that the institution is not necessarily facilitating that consistency nor that success because they aren't necessarily able to compete mentally or otherwise, fiscally or otherwise, against the likes of Lyon. And I think that that's what it is for most PSG players.
I mean, Real Madrid, I agree that there is a cultural, economical element to their dissonance from trophy accumulation success in their domestic league, but I can't criticize the Champions League form. I can't criticize the fact that they actually did go out there. They did qualify. They did finish higher than a few European titans. They did win or draw games that they weren't expected to, including the Paris FC game where they snatched it from the jaws of defeat, and then went on to the qualifiers, won their qualifying, and got to the quarterfinals. Right, there is something more ambitious about that. There is something in that United performance where you can. United, if you're putting United, Real Madrid and PSG in the same bucket of teams that probably aren't going to accrue what they should be accruing or attempting to accrue from a mission standpoint, two teams can hold their heads up high knowing they got to a position that they were supposed to, whereas PSG miraculously failed in the Champions League in a way that was almost like not shocking because we expected it. We did expect it. It was shocking to a lot of pundits and we saw that happen. But yes, they drew an unfortunate catalogue of a fixture when you're coming up against Bayern and Wolfsburg, and I don't expect them to beat either of those two, but you came up against Manchester United, you came up against Real Madrid, you came up against the other teams that don't accrue trophies, and you have a history that is greater in pedigree than them in WOSO, and you got slapped both times. You got slapped at home and you got slapped away by Real Madrid and Manchester United, respectively.
Well, I agree. And I think that it just goes to show the mentality is lost. But for a team that has all the mentality and is definitely taking advantage of that, I have my most controversial pick. And the pick that I didn't think I would be making at the start of the season, my right-sided centre-back is Ash Lawrence.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Because of a few reasons that I'm going to mention. Not necessarily getting the same plaudits as her defensive peers, like Engen, somebody who came into this team much like Ash Lawrence and has done a job, and I can respect that Engen did a job. But Ash Lawrence actually has the equal amount of minutes and games. Oh, she has the most minutes, but the equal amount of games as Tassian, who they both have 18 games in the league. And I think that she's shown why the swap move between Chelsea and Lyon was just as worthwhile for Carpenter at Chelsea as it was for Lawrence at Lyon. Defensive statistics are very redundant when we talk about Lyon players, especially in the league, and especially talking about fullbacks that, with the style of football that they play, are mostly just essentially wingers.
Yeah,
right?
it's the same as Esme Brutes and Ona Battier, and it's hard to you quantify it by goal contributions, to be honest, or passing statistics and stuff.
And what I will say is that defensively, actually, Ash Lawrence has excelled my expectations, because I always saw her as quite an athletic fullback, like not the type of lockdown job or particularly intelligent at a defensive craft. But this season, and again, I'm taking into consideration that Lyon are performing in a weaker league and can do things that other teams can't do, but she has been able to showcase some of those more defensive, real traditional defensive qualities that I haven't necessarily seen at Chelsea. In those build-up statistics, we recognise that they are distinct to Lyon style fullbacks, and she has been particularly good at those this season. Her long balls, her crosses, her solo work on the flank has been particularly good. She has 4 assists and 1 goal this season, which is not particularly exceptional numbers, but they are the best in the right back position in the league. And I think that that's all you can ask for a right back at Lyon, not doing the same job as Basher and the likes of Ali Carpenter in previous years, but she did her job. And I think if I'm going to add a player from Lyon in that 3 back, I wanted to add somebody who actually kind of earned it and actually did a job. And I thought Ash Lawrence did her job this season.
I understand it from a not. Yeah, it is. I would say it's controversial, especially from how we do smokies on her, and we give her probably the record.
No way
the record amount. I was gonna say the record amount. No, but I was gonna extend the Champo to big games in the ARKEMA. That she doesn't play the big games in the ARKEMA, which is where I think that's where I'm she did play in the final. I will say that she did play against Paris FC in the final. To be fair, Tassian is injured, and they don't have another right back, so it is just Ash Lawrence. But it's not a terrible pick by any means. She has a very good amount of form. You'll see how I've kind of manipulated the situation in my team I've kind of done a Frauen Bund situation where I've decided that Leggy, we no longer have a left back itis, we have a right back itis, because Arsenal have taken all the right backs in the world of football, and we don't actually have any more right backs left over for any other team, and we should be, as Kang would say, we should take them from the men. I think that's the necessary solution here. But yes, it is hard to go down the direction when the ARKEMA is such a central channel football. You look at the numbers in the middle of midfield. I assume when we move into your midfield, you're going to have a lot of high goal contribution numbers, but we don't have many excessive crosses from the wings. You don't get those amazing assist numbers of a player like Alex Greenwood, Kasparai, Smilla Holmberg, who came in on
Lily
burst onto the scene.
Is getting fullback numbers in the center of midfield. Yeah,
because she's an absolute baller, and she was probably my 12th person in this team. I was trying to find a way to fit her in, but then I remembered she's from America, and I knew that was the right decision to
Ash
leave
Lawrence
her out.
is just she's just a little bit better.
She's not American. It's okay. She's of the ilk of the Kyle Larine. She is a Canadian goat. So I've got no issue with Ash Lawrence there. I mean, it makes sense. You're going to see how I've done a little bit of a pseudo leggy moment, but let's jump. You said 3-5-2, so I assume you have 2 2 holding again.
Yeah, the double pivot, Kurashek and Karchawi, both incredibly influential for their respective teams. Kurashek is undeniably Paris FC's most reliable player in the middle of the park, playing every minute for her side and making up for her measly 4 GA with some of the most consistent football by an individual player over a season in Europe. It's evident that she is the most important player for her team, but it's the strongest qualities that she brings to the side that just elevate Paris FC. So yes, she's incredible offensively. We recognize that her line breaking passes and the way that she's been able to manipulate herself in the middle of the park means that she's basically everywhere where the ball is. But her strongest qualities are probably in defense. I mean, making up an average 5.5 defensive contributions a game.
I don't know how you mentioned the attack before the defense.
I wanted to showcase that there is attacking quality there. Like, obviously they have to start their attack from somewhere, but it is the jewels. Like, she's a jewel winning maestro. She does incredible stuff defensively. She's a powerhouse in midfield. Her recoveries and tackle rates are among the best in the league. And she's, as I said earlier, she is one of Paris FC's better players because of the fact that she's been able to dictate really what the style of Paris FC wants to be in the league, and that is a ball possession heavy team that is able to build from midfield, something that is being lost in the kind of arts of women's football, but is being revitalized through this Paris FC team.
Mate, Baltic midfielders in the 6 are so in. I'm so here for this. This is a big, like, I don't know if I can call it a breakout in the sense of that. I would say last year was probably like, she did come in, like last year she was about the same. I think she was better in the Champions League this year, in my opinion. I think Paris FC have a lot more to write home about in their ability to manage 4 competitions, which is quite impressive. But she burst on the scene, 2 seasons ago now, and has come in and, yes, has moved deeper because of her physicality, her running. She's I would say she's got one of the best tanks in WOSO. I think she's built of that Lucy Bronze school of never stop running, never going at 70, 60%.
Really. We're seeing it from women's football now, this kind of Baltic renaissance, really. Kind of this idea that like Baltic players and in the kind of smaller European leagues, the Serie A, the French League, the Bundes, they're bringing up these Baltic players and they're doing what we expect of Baltic players to do, which is have a tank and use it.
Yeah, and doing doggies is arguably the hardest part of the game. It's the part of the game that a lot of people revere, the Sam Coffeys of the world. Having like it's not just having a deep lying playmaker. We can't all just have Leah Voltis running around. You need someone. You need a Georgia Stanway to get stuck in. You need a player who's gonna run the entire game from the back pocket, and then when you're on the back foot, you have possession. You have possessional recoveries from the middle of midfield, and her numbers are sublime. Her numbers are crazy on the back foot. I think, yes, there is something to ask about the fact that does she need to go forward? I don't think she does, because we'll get to her teammate eventually down the line, because she is the one that I think is immensely important to their attacking product. I mean, further up the field, they have 2 players there that I think will probably get a nod in our respective teams or get close to it. But yeah, Karashek definitely needs some semblance of admiration for the performances she's put up this year, albeit ending a bit sourly in that final. I mean, I don't think any Paris FC player can be judged by that final game in the ARKEMA, but you have to respect the fact that she went toe-to-toe with her Parisian rivals. She went up against Karchawi, Yaya Echegini, and she held her own, her and her teammate, and they dropped contribution on contribution defensively, the 2 of them dropping combined, I believe, a total of 14 defensive contributions, smoking the Olimbis, the Isabellas. Like, that's how you do it. That's how you win games that you're not supposed to. You have players who just don't give up, use their gas tank, run the pitch ragged. You overrun the pitch and you show them the physical nature of a team that is on average 3 years younger than their opposition. They showed what youth can do to experience, and to have those three players in the middle of midfield that combine age of about averaging out about 20, 21 is very exciting. It's like watching a youth development squad just continue to retain their quality. I mean, City, we don't need that Baltic runner. We have Sydney Lohmann to do that. But like, if I was Chelsea's biggest issue right now is not having a player to do the water carrying stuff. How is Kaja Korosek not wearing a royal blue shirt instead of a dark blue shirt? I have no idea why they're going after different players in other teams in the ARKEMA. Makes no sense when there's a player like that right there, right in front of our eyes. We're seeing it in Europe, we're seeing it in France, and no one's going after her. And it's kind of befuddling, but it also just shows there's a bit of respect for this team that is building something that I'm excited to see manifest.
And she's not my last Paris FC player, as you kind of alluded to earlier, but alongside her in this team, but literally next door in Paris, is Karchaoui. Yeah, she is probably among the
calling her an 8. Calling her an 8 is just cruel. I mean, she's just Karchaoui. She's the Roma. She's not a Forza Roma. She is the free roam player. Like, it is absolutely insane, the things that I didn't think she was capable of doing. Like, if you told me last year, I would have told you her best position is a fullback. Like, full on, why are we playing this girl in the midfield?
A fullback?
Because she was smoking everyone at left back. She was France's left back. She was playing ahead of Salma Basher at points. And I was like, why are we just playing her in the midfield just because PSG's bad enough? And now it's just gotten to a point where she's no longer a left back. You don't have to waste her at left back. Like, if France were good enough that Karchaoui was a left back, they would have won something already, you know? Like, that's probably the situation.
But yeah, she's probably one of the few players in the world who plays for perpetually underwhelming teams, but is consistently singled out as one of the best for their respective position, or positions in her case. She's been doing it now for 6 seasons at PSG, and during that time, she's been, if not the best, in the top 3 at her club. With her versatility across the pitch, the leadership qualities differentiating her from her peers across the league, she's easily PSG's biggest standout player, and probably one of their greatest players if we look at the lineage of PSG and their women's team. She picked up 10 GA in 20 games across like 4 positions, and holding an insane consistency as she manages to assimilate into whatever position the team requires of her to be in. She's basically top 5 in every offensive statistic for her side, ranging from being the highest chance creator to having the most possessions won in the final third per 90. Beyond the stats, this is a player that can win and save a game off her own boot. We saw it in the last couple of games, most notably in one of the best games of the season, which I'll go on to a bit later. But what she lacks in stature, she makes up for pure for the badge grid. Where there are deficiencies in maybe her 1v1 qualities, she compensates for in her distribution and off the ball work. She's just like a great example of a complete midfielder and a utility player. And I think that if the Ligue 1 lose her, then it'll be a massive loss for the French league, more so than just a loss for PSG, which will be kind of irreconcilable.
It's crazy. Honestly, it is an insane career parable that is Karchaoui, because she's kind of done the opposite of what most French players do. She started out in a Lyon phase. I mean, obviously got the move from Montpellier. Her work, I mean, she's been around the game for a while. She's been at Montpellier was there for a very long time. Got the move, got the free transfer to the greatest French structure in the world, and then made the move away from Lyon. Got the lucrative contract from PSG. It must be baller money.
But we don't think of her as a Lyon player. We actually think of her as a PSG player. Like, PSG if I ask a random on the street, they will know Karchaoui, maybe not for the reasons of football, but they will know Karchaoui and think of her in the PSG jersey. And I think that that's pretty symbolic of a player who's obviously isn't marred by the fact that her team is not as successful as the one that she was with previously. This is somebody who believes in the Paris project and PSG and is, tethered to this PSG kind of ideology that they're trying to pursue in the women's game.
It still is a weird parable in the sense of she is 30 years old and has 4 trophies in total. I mean, she was given a Champions League medal in the 1920 season with Lyon because she played 3 games. Amazing for her and being a part of that group stage process. But to have 2 coup de féminines for all her time in PSG is kind of wild, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, we're going to talk about her in the second half of the podcast anyway because of her links away and her potential rumors, but it's probably about time. I think there is more to this player than just a perennial PSG talisman, because she is good enough to be a proven match winner. I don't know how many player of the matches this season. I'm going to go with a number like 4 or 5, I think.
5, I think.
But it's more than enough to recognize I don't know, Caroline Weir made the move, you know, like there are players that they just do it. They do just take the big risk. And I understand it's comfortable to just play at PSG and do the same again and dominate in your respective league. But I know there's more to Karchaowi's career in the next 5 years that isn't just going to be in red, white and blue for club and country.
And I think out of all the players who are leaving PSG, as we know, and as I noted earlier, PSG are the team that are kind of losing a lot of those players at rates that are pretty unprecedented. But I think out of all of them, she's the one who would benefit most from the move. And I think that it's mostly because her football is versatile. She's able to play everywhere on the pitch and thus able to really play anywhere in any league. And I don't think that we should be holding on for a WSL move, because I think she could, as I said earlier, she could play anywhere. And I think that is kind of the great thing about Karchaowi. She could go to a team in Germany. She could play for Wolfsburg and, be like a real hegemon in that midfield or in fullback or wherever she wants to play.
Her football isn't canonically French.
No.
There's no this specific nation fails elsewhere. Just your Karchaowi, just play everywhere you want, play anywhere you want, play in a team that wants you, and you start you start for any team in world football. I'm not even joking. You start for Barcelona. That's just true. That's just not in. That's not even a. That's not even, I think it's not even a question. I think you could I think maybe it's a cultural aspect, maybe for that reason, but I can't say with a straight face that Clara Serra-Jordi is better than Karchaowi at that position. It's a debate. It's not necessarily done and dusted. Oh, Clara Serra-Jordi plays, right? Alexia has also just left that 10 position. If you could play Patrietana Karchaowi, Lyon would start Karchaowi. Arsenal would potentially start Karchaowi. There is a question of what it would mean. I mean, I don't know. You have friends that have just gone to Chelsea. There's a lot of French players at Chelsea. I don't know why there wouldn't be ambition to go over there and reclaim their former success. But I don't know. There is more to meets the eye than just a player that's been there for 5 years, 6 years must love a better part of a decade at a club. You must love the club and you must love what it means to you and what it means to them. And I do appreciate that brilliance and some of the goals she scores we'll get to later in the program. But who else do you have on lock in that midfield?
My attacking midfielder is Melchie Dumornay, the best player in the league and one of the best in Europe. Dumornay has had another incredible season of football, coming off the back of her best season to date in the 24-25 season. She's actually played more games than I would anticipate for a player so integral to Lyon's European campaign. Melchie started 12 games, played 17, and picked up an astonishing 9 goals and 7 assists. There is very little to say about this player that hasn't already been said. If anything, I implore listeners to just watch a Lyon game and see how she dictates play and control in the final third. Something truly underrated about Melchie is her intelligence and off-the-ball movement. Of course, she is second to none when it comes to explosive breaks and deadly long shots, but her reading of the game is something quite rare and only adds to just how priceless this player is for Lyon and how priceless she will be for the next, hopefully, I'd say decade of Lyon play. If they really want to center a single player, it would be Melchie Dumornay, and I think that she is the player that could get them to the former glory of those 8 Champions Leagues that they so proudly show off on their sleeve.
How many times have we spoken about Dumornay across this season? How many TikToks have we made about Dumornay and the goals she scores, the amount of teams she's claimed victim, it's in France or in Europe? I mean, killer, absolute, was on a Ballon d'Or run. Really was genuinely, like, I think she was a Lindsay Heaps offside goal away from a Ballon d'Or top 3, top 2. Like, it's not even joking. If that Lindsay Heaps goal wasn't offside in that Champions League final, we could be talking about her as a Ballon d'Or candidate in a quadruple season. And she really wasn't far away. And a player of, like, that caliber doesn't go unnoticed. She is, a masterful footballer in the ilk and remnants of a player like Jennifer Marajan. Like, that this is the kind of player she's attempted to emulate. And look, the creativity, versatility, and then the edge of the box striking is you're not far away from a player like that, and her legacy could definitely match up to that in, who knows, 3, 4, half a decade's time. We could be talking about Dumornay the same way we talk about her.
And a player very similar to her is my left-sided fullback, aka left winger, as I say every week, which was Chawinga. It feels like Chawinga has been at Lyon.
Chawinga up and down is crazy.
I know, I love it.
Crazy
I love
work.
it, but there's no defense.
That might be worse than Liv Smith.
No, it's not. I feel, actually, maybe it is. Maybe it is.
No, it is.
Because have you seen her defensive stats? They're non-existent.
They're non-existent because they don't defend. They don't defend. What track back do they have to do? That's what I mean. That's why I said it's worse than Smith. I would trust. Smith, I would kind of trust to put in a shift, you know. But like, obviously, I wouldn't want her to do that. But like, I could see her doing a Caitlin Ford Champions League final like track back performance. But this is just like this is a hate crime. This is ridiculous to show her in there.
I'm presenting as if I'm Lyon. So I'm Michelle Kang, right? And I've kind of built this dream team in the ARKEMA. And Chawinga is in that team because it's kind of astounding to me that I've really attributed to Lyon to a player that's only played 2 seasons for Lyon. Like, this has easily been her best, and yes, she had a good season the previous, but Chawinga has proven to be like the most reliable substitute in the league, scoring 13 goals and picking up 5 assists after only starting 10 games, playing 18. She nearly doubled her goal tally from last year in the league, and came second in the top goal scorers list. Like, this is a player who naturally knows how to impact a game. There's been no coutouring of this player to try and fit her into a system. She just does her job, and you know, she's top 3 in basically every important Lyon offensive stat. And per 90, she's averaging 1.38 goals, which, fun fact, is actually higher than the top goal scorer in the league, who we will get onto soon. Her pace, her explosiveness mixed with her eye for goal has made her one of the most dangerous and feared players in the league. There are very few aspects to her game that can be under genuine criticism, probably other than her defense, which, again, she doesn't have to do. But this is a player that is in a team that just facilitates her greatness, and there is so much to offer for a player that, take it away from the whole Lyon of it all, the whole Ligue 1 of it all, is kind of overshadowed by her sister. And I think that this is another case of, you know, the kid being like, actually, like, she's doing really well, and the respect should be more on her name, I think.
The kid, I mean, ultimately, I mean, she is older than
She's older than
but, I just wanted to say that. But yeah, they are what? Malawi are what? 3, 4 Chawingas away from a World Cup final? Yeah. Like, let's be real, right? Yeah. Like, these two are, in my opinion, should be shoo-ins for top 15 in the Ballon d'Or. They should be shoo-ins for nominations, but they should be shoo-ins for the top 15 because one of them terrorizes the Northwest and the other one terrorizes France. And like, it's scary the impact she has. And the problem is that you can easily fall into the trap because she's a super sub. She comes on when it's already 3-0 and then we'll make it 5-6. And she's the reason it is 5 or 6, or in some cases against Lons, it's 8-1, or some cases against PSG, it's 4-1, and then she makes it 6-1 with a half an hour cameo. Like, she is a born, like, competitor. Like, she's the one who you're going on Sunday League, you're losing 4-1, and then there's someone on the winning team still arguing with the ref, and you're just like, oh, why are you arguing with the ref? You're winning. And it's like, no, that's Chawinga ball. That's what it is. Like, she is here to win. She is here to stay. And like, fair enough. I mean, I think it's probably the biggest shame of that Champions League final is that she didn't start. I don't know if she was fit 100%, but sometimes you make a decision and you, in hindsight, like I would have said the other way around. Like, why did she play in the final if she wasn't fit and healthy? You can just play Vicky Besho. But like, it is just the big stage, and sometimes you just need your best out there. And Chewinga is one of those players. And I was kind of shocked that she wasn't involved, considering she was involved in a lot of the other processes before that, and they were resting her in a way that was conducive to her coming back, right? And I do think she was important in that game against VFL to clinch from the 1-0 loss to the 4-0 win. She clinched the final goal, running the length of the pitch, finishing that off. She wasn't involved in either Arsenal game, right? So that was the crazy part that probably made it relatively close in that way. I don't know if that would have made it harder for you to end up with some sort of a fight back if they had a player like Tabitha on the bench. But yeah, Chewinga is still doing it. She's still there. It's a weird dynamic because they have so much firepower and they're only getting more. Getting more. So her role becomes more and more cameo-like and more impact player-like, because you do have your LeBron, and Vicky Besho has had a very strong season across the 4 competitions, and Ada is still there, and Katoto is there, and Diani is not, but maybe this is the platform now that Diani is gone for her to not necessarily solidify the right side, but allow someone like Besho to have that right side to herself, so she can take the left side, or she can take up front and get the passing of the torch from Ada Hegerberg to be like, you know what, thank you for your service. You've been the best striker of the last decade. Now it's time for me to start matches, not just 10 games in the league, and let me actually get top goal scorer in this league, in a league that we dominate.
Well, talking about that right-sided fullback, aka winger, it is Vicky Besho. I think unlike someone like Chewinga, we forget how many seasons Besho at 22 has played first-team football for Lyon at. Like, after her loan in 21-22, she has been consistently getting upwards of 30 games per all comps, except for one season, which was last season. This season, though, particularly...
She got injured.
She got injured that season. This season particularly, though, marked Besho's best campaign to date, both statistically and in terms of her overall influence on the pitch. She was Lyon's starting right winger in the league and a consistent attacking outlet, scoring 9 goals and picking up 5 assists. Outside of her stats, she's genuinely a game changer, much like Chewinga, and the barometer for the tone of Lyon's forward play from the start, seeing as she starts games. The thing that is most endearing about her play, though, is that like kind of raw, unfiltered willingness to try, even when it doesn't work. Lyon have this luxury of being able to be experimental and unconventional in the league, and I think that she is a player that is going to challenge herself and doesn't see necessarily the fact that they are going to smoke the league anyway as a hindrance on what she can do and how she can improve. Like, she is growing and maturing as a player, but is also learning to trust her instincts and pursue exciting football endeavors. And I think that on the pitch, as well as her maturity and her intelligence off the ball, is adding dimensions to her game to propel her to be one of the best wingers in the world in the next few years.
Vicky Besho is 22. Vicky Lopez is 19, correct? I believe. Or so I've compared Vicky and Vicky for a while, not necessarily for player or style of football, but just through name and notoriety and their job security in 2 of the best teams in the world, right? I think there is something in Vicky Besho that has been touted as the chosen one, albeit it goes back to 2019, right? She was the youngest. I think she is still the youngest player in history to win the under-19 Euros at 15 years old, right? She was in that 2019 squad and was in a team that was incredibly impressive alongside, star players that came through the ranks at Lyon, players like Ben Yaya, who is still there, players that have come through the ranks and gone up to a level that was required of them to stay in this team. Because how many players have we seen leave Lyon? How many players are we currently seeing leave Lyon? Like, it's not an easy thing to just end up like in that realm and just always facilitate your career in the best team. You have to prove to the best of the best that you're worthy of being here. Players like Melvin Mallard, who were brilliant in that tournament, are at United, not in PSG, not in Lyon, because that's what happens, right? Like it doesn't take long for them to decide, you know what, we can find better or we have better. Yeah. But Besho has proven that she stayed and she's held on her form. And I think this is by far her best season. I think it's not even a question. Some of the goals she's been scoring, like the volleys, like the actual moments of brilliance, the low XG magic. I think there was some outside of the foot stuff. Her flair is brilliant. I mean, I remember when she was playing, I wanted her to start at the World Cup. In that Women's World Cup, I really wanted her to get more minutes. Yes, it was a shame that she missed her penalty against the Tillies, but ultimately she was young. It was she was 19 years old. She was already the chosen one then. She is still the chosen one now. Clearly, with Diani leaving, they haven't signed another right winger. They haven't signed Salma Paruello. They clearly trust this 22-year-old to run the right side of their team for the next 10 years because they've already had her for 5 years. So there's no reason not to believe in a player. And I mean, it's what's more scary is you've put her in already, not in the sense of that she doesn't deserve it, but you could be putting her in for the next 10 years.
Well, I put Vicky in my Liga F team, so I obviously have a thing for Vicky's on the right side.
We could be, but what I mean is, like, not only could we be putting them in domestically for the next 10 years, we could be putting both of these lot in the Champions League, end of the year, team of the year. Like, we could be putting these two in there to run WOSO for the next decade. And there's no issue with that sentence in any way because of their track record, the way they've gone through the ranks. They've done the hard yards to get to the spot where you don't ever think that Vicky Lopez is moving. You don't ever think that Vicky Besho is going to leave Lyon. In my opinion, I just don't see it happening because every facet of her game she needs to be good at, chance creation, her dribbling, her now lethal goal scoring when she gets the opportunity to, is not really paralleled by much elsewhere to the point where they would get rid of her or that they would buy someone else to give her competition.
Well, I think if we're talking about this as a purely business deal, there is just so much there that you keep digging at the landmine, right? Like, there is just so much gold there. Why abandon it now? And I think that that's pretty much what Lyon have riding for them, not to go into the whole ideology of it, but at least they are keeping some of their young players and trusting in them. And I think Vicky Besho is an example of that. And I also think that, of course, some of the loan players that they send out and they want to keep because they do trust in them is kind of a part of this ecosystem that Kang likes to spout, when really it is a Lyon-driven ecosystem. The two other teams are not doing that to the same extent. But of course, it's because Lyon are just so dominant. They can be playing 22-year-olds from the start of 18 and having them play first team football. And I think that, again, Vicky Besho this season, though, has had the breakout season, and people are saying her name, and rightfully so, along with the Vicky Lopez's and the Liv Smiths as these like genuinely exciting wingers. So,
but like, remember the game, the Lons game, where they won 8-1 away from home, and Vicky Besho had a 66-minute hat trick, right? But then Chewinga came off, and in 8 minutes, Liana Joseph dropped a hat-trick, right? Yeah. So, like, there's an alternate reality where Liana Joseph doesn't do her ACL and ends up in your list as well, because that's what France are facilitating right now. These young ballers that have won Euros, albeit under 17 or under 19 Euros in the late 2010s or early 2020s, and are getting player of the tournaments and then going to Lyon to further this pedigree and Titan club that are only getting bigger and better, like as so long as they have the capacity to do so.
And it's funny because my two strikers are not even from Lyon, and I think that goes to show that you don't necessarily need the traditional striker like they did with the Arda Hegerbergs, or even with the likes of Katoto coming in to have your mark on the season and to be so dominant. But my two striker duo is Romée Lukta and Clara Mateo. Two players, one of which is a shoo-in. The other has completely surprised me this season in ways that I question whether she can replicate it next season. But Romée Lukta, I think, is the player I'll start with, because this is somebody who I have constantly questioned the quality of, particularly when I'm watching the Dutch team. I think that she is out of step with the rest of that Dutch starting 11 a lot of the time. And I think it's to do with the fact that, yes, she's a type and an archetype of striker that works very well in the French league, but doesn't necessarily work well in Europe and doesn't necessarily work well with her national team. But take that away and you have an incredible striker, and a striker who picked up 18 goals in 20 games. Like, this is incredible.
How many assists as well?
And how many is 7 assists, right? Like, this is a player.
It's not like she's bad at that either.
No, and
like,
this is a player
who
impacts games in ways that I think that are second to none in the league, especially this season. I recognize Clara Mateo has also done her role for Paris FC, but if we're talking about a player who's so relied upon, in the realm of a Tessa Volhart, really, at only, how old is she? 25 years old? To stay at PSG is probably beneficial for her. And this is where we go back to the conversations of what do players want and what do players need and what do players aspire for. I think to staying at PSG for another season and trying to just have this form be consistent, have this not be an outlier season, and have this be the norm, is able then to build upon these foundations. She's scoring goals in every which way possible. She is inevitable from 5 yards out to 25 yards out. And the team around her facilitates her in ways that, yes, is conducive to that success and those amount of goals, but she's doing it on her own as well. She's doing it in pockets of space where it's a 1v4 and she's able to get out of those spaces and is able to take on a shot. Something that I think is quite rare for strikers now, which is just take a shot, have a go. She does it, and she does it very, very well. And I hope, as I said earlier, I hope that this form is able to be more of a consistent thing rather than a one-off, because I think that there is a player there that can be the leader for PSG or be the leader for whatever team needs that type of striker.
Yeah, I mean, she ended up with, there was a period at the start of the season. I know that 2 of those games were rubbed out for the point deduction, but from November to the turn of the year, it was a period of, 6 games? And she dropped 11 goal contributions. Like, what an animal. Like, she is just hungry. She smells the goals better than anyone else. And her variety of goals is what's impressed me this season. I think that I looked at her as a bit of a, not necessarily a tap-in merchant because her intuition is great, and she can strike the ball, but now she's got chips. She's scoring chip goals. She's scoring volleys. The goal she scored for the Dutch at the end of the season, like, that was a ridiculous strike. She's got different goals in her bag. That goal was against Poland, I believe, in the 3-1 win. But, like, definite player that is she worth $1 million, Leggy? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't know if it's $1
maybe
million.
Maybe in 3 years. If she has another 2 years.
Maybe in 1 year. Maybe in 1 year. Maybe if she backs up next season with another 25 goal contributions in 20 games, you could look at it like, you know what? She's dropped 50 GCs in 2 seasons. She's like it sits there and you go, you know what? Wow, there is a lot to hold your head up. They have a contract on her. She can leave with grace next season unless they pay her what she's worth. That's what I would be doing. Looked her in a contract season. I expect her to drop more goal contributions. That's her to drop.
That's interesting because I always thought, like, PSG, I know that it's probably not beneficial for the player, but PSG should probably be, like, shilling her as much as possible, because I don't like sending her out on a free is worse than getting her for a club that will take the short-term option of £1 million or euros for a player who is probably worth, like, I don't know, more than half. Like she was probably worth like 200K at the start of the season, and now has risen to
not
$1
million.
She wasn't worth anything more than 500K. Definitely not. Remay looks
I would have said 500. I would have said 500 at the start of the season, just purely off potentiality, and like you knew that this season was coming. It's not like you didn't know that there was a capacity to do this, because there was Kanjinga was playing deep. Kanjinga was going to play deeper. We all knew that was going to happen, and the way in which I think Kanjinga is the one you take. To be honest, I don't know why she's that's my hot take, is that I think Kanjinga is probably the better player out of the 2 of them in what she's able to do and match win on her own. Yes, Kanjinga has more bad games. Lukta has more consistency, but one is proven at the top level and can win matches at that top level by doing like forceful, powerful things. I think there's just a little bit more arrogance in her game. Though Romeo Lukta has developed that arrogance over the course of the season, rightfully so. That's how you do it. You play with form that is tethered to the fact that you are the best goal scorer in the league. You win it. You don't winning trophies doesn't make you any less arrogant of a footballer, and there's good arrogance and bad arrogance. And I think that Lukta is a player that I don't know, when you play for a contract, especially PSG contracts, oil money contracts, like she could drop 25 goal contributions again and look up at the board.
She doesn't want to stay.
No, okay, fine. She doesn't want to stay, but then she has to play well, or no one's going to want her.
Agree.
That's just the reality of the situation. If she doesn't match this season, people will just be like, oh well, 25, 26 was a bit of a lucky roll, and the game is the game. But she's not good enough for Chelsea. She's not good enough for City. She's not good enough for Arsenal. She's not good enough for VfL Wolfsburg. Like, that's what happens if you're not good enough, right? So if she drops 25 again, then she might want to leave, and that's fine. And then VfL might come knocking, or Bayern might come knocking, and that's fine. But PSG will offer her a contract if she's dropping higher numbers. They will, regardless of whether she wants to leave. PSG will go, you know what? If you stay, you can be in the exactly same position, but we'll give you 100,000 a year more for the next 3 years, and that might be enough for her. We don't know what that will entail, but I do think that there is something in Lukta's, like, I don't know. I think there is a bit of a stick between her teeth in the sense of that there is more than PSG as well. And I don't know when that is, because you know what? It is fun watching her absolutely play to what I would probably consider is her highest level until I see a higher level. I think she's always going to be that player where I'm not going to say, oh, there's a ceiling. I'm not going to say there's a ceiling to it, but I'm ready to be proven wrong. I'm ready to be proven wrong in the sense of that I think that Kanjinga's better than her. Prove to me that she's not. Prove to me that you're the best player in this league, bar the players who are in Lyon. Or prove yourself well enough. If you win a game, you know what? Next year, even if you don't play as well, if you score against Lyon, and let's see what that means to you, and see what it means to PSG, because ultimately that's what I think is now a pass mark in a sense for PSG to show some evolution and progression, is to try and provide better results than the prior result that they had.
But something about Romeo Lukta that I really admire is she is taking like the 2017 route of football. You know, play at Ajax, stack up the goals, stack up the games, play at PSG, and then go on to the big leagues. And I think that is, you know, we've seen it with the likes of Viv Miedema, Penel Harder. Like, this is somebody who's been able to bank up the goals and the foundations. And that's why I said it's so important for her to stick to this consistency and not drop off, because I recognize it's hard. And we talked about it with CGH. Like, you cannot expect a player to hit the same numbers, but I'm talking about like the quite like literal things on the pitch, like the way that she gets onto a ball, the way that she's in front of goal, her movements off the ball, like these small things. It doesn't matter about the GA at the end of the season. It's about how she's improving and maturing as a player.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and I think somebody who has been showing that to a level that I think that we have questioned why she hasn't moved, but I think that actually goes to show that there is still a bit of loyalty left in football, is Clara Mateo. She has now played her, I believe, 9th season for Paris FC, and it's again another amazing season. 23 games, 8 goals, 4 assists. The numbers don't do justice to this player because she is the powerhouse in the final third. Basically, from the halfway line onwards, it's the Clara Mateo show. She does have great defensive attributes as well. Like, I'm not going to say that she's not like horrendous in defense. She does come back. She has her recoveries, but of course we recognize this is a player who is incredible on her feet. She's a great dribbler. She's a great distributor. She's a great goal scorer. And I think she's a great leader. And I think that if we talk about a complete player in the Ligue 1, as I have been throughout this team of the season, and really focusing on players who are able to encapsulate so much more than the particular role or the particular position that they have requires them to do. They do more than that. They encompass more than that. I think Mateo is the archetype of that. I think that she is somebody who is, yes, very relied upon by Paris FC, but I think that she's been able to build something where she's also bringing players along with her and raising them up and getting them to her level. And I think if Clara Matteo decided in a season that she's going to go play for a top WSL club or a top club in Europe, that is the most like undeniably okay thing, because she's done her yards at Paris FC, but she signed the contract for Paris FC. She's staying there till I don't know when, but she is doing extra years at this club, probably going to retire at this club. If not, she'll retire at a slightly smaller club. I don't see her past 35 like playing for Chelsea, but I think that it's just such a testament to the body of work and what we talk about with like the Giulianos of last week as well, like somebody who's actually done it for their club and has left a legacy to be admired and has really been on the trajectory of this rise of Paris FC, which we've recognized and as women's football as a whole is recognized as being quite exceptional.
Clara Matteo will be there till 2029, and I don't know if this was Clara Matteo's best season. It's the funny thing is that it's still worthy of a team of the season. It's a different role she's had this season. I think she's turned more facilitator and leader than last year, where she was an out and out killer. She was an out and out goal scorer last season. Didn't she win the top goal scorer in the ARKEMA, I believe? She scored 20 goals, 18 goals, 7 assists in 20 games. She had a Lukta-esque season, right? And she was magnificent up front. It wasn't even a question of where she was playing, but now there's this new role for Clara Matteo where she's playing deeper with her back to goal. It's almost a French Alessia Russo kind of situation where she's being used differently on the basis that other players will get played into those respective games. And I think that, you can't have just one player doing it for you and one player deciding how your games come and go. But I think she's raised up the ability of other players. And it's not that she's not playing up front. It's just there are new outlets to goal that you can argue are... Yeah, exactly. That are better, that make it that, I don't know, games against Lons where they win 6-2 and Matteo doesn't score, but she has the most touches in the opposition box. She wins penalties. She has a very high pass rate. She has good chances created. She has a few shots. She has a few dribbles and duels and wins them all. Like, it's other aspects to the game that come from mature footballers. It's not just out and out killer 9. Like, I don't know, it's the difference between a player like Natalia Ramos, who probably next year will score the same amount of goals in the Liga F and still play in the 9 and do her thing, play deeper a little bit, but Clara Matteo is becoming a well-rounded football that is good enough to play for club and country. And I don't know, she goes in the Kelly Gago, she goes in the Melvin Mallard like list and rank of who starts for France with Diani and whoever they want to put up front, like it is a question. She invites a lot of questions because she is such a naturally exciting footballer, and playing alongside the players she had in Garbino, Picard, Maylene Mendy, who's a Lyon loanee in her way, but it's an amazing team, and she is everything good about that front four, and it's an exciting time to be a Paris FC fan, put it that way, when you have a player like Clara Matteo at the top of the park, you have a player like Kaja Korosek in the middle of the park, and then you have a goalie like Marlene Chavas in goal. Like, it's a very impressive spine that hopefully can be improved, like let's see not just retainment, let's see accrual, let's see more players that give you a better precedent to stand on the toes or on the tail of Paris Saint-Germain, to be like, you know what, instead of us playing you in a 3rd v 2nd playoff, you're going to play us in a 2nd v 3rd playoff, and we're going to be the second on the ladder, and we're going to change the course of this duopoly in a sense.
Yeah, and that's why my manager of the season is Paris FC's Sandri, I don't even know how to pronounce her last name, Subrerand. I'm so sorry to my French queen. No, but she's my manager of the season because Jonathan Heraldes does not manage. I don't care if he rotates his squad. I think that they pick out of a hat, and that's why Lyon have a mixed match of about players who play about 10 games a season, because we actually saw a person, a coach, a manager who was able to take her club and completely demolish the duopoly. She got second. Paris FC got second this year. They got to the final as well. If we're talking about the postseason, they beat PSG for the first time in their history. I think that outside of the Jonathan Heraldus and the Lyon of it all, this has been an exceptional season. And we haven't mentioned a manager that has come second in our manager of the season, but I think rightfully so for the ARKEMA. It has to be. Like, it has to be Paris FC's coach. Do you want to have a go pronouncing her name?
She's what? Souberan. That's what I called her. But Sandrine, I just remember us talking about her when they lost to PSG earlier this season, and she was fucking losing her mind. She was fuming. No, it's not a bad decision by any means. It's just a, I don't know, it's a hard pick to make. It's like picking, I don't know, it's like picking Arturo Ruiz in the Liga F for the Sociedad season. I think Paris FC are a little bit less of a shock than a team like Sociedad in the position that they finished, because or Inter Milan by that extent, the Piovani and his season that he had. Like, it's picking the underdog team is not necessarily an incorrect decision by any means, because there's a lot to ride home about with this team, but I think that there is one ahead, which we will get to. In my team, I've gone back to my roots the same way you've gone back to yours. Ultimately, I had to just definitely, no question about it, had to go to 4-2-2. I just love I hate wingers, let's be honest. I just hate left midfielders and right midfielders and left wingers and right wingers, because some of them should just be playing up front instead. But we've gone Chivas in goal. You mentioned basically everything about her. I really don't have to go into it more again. She is the heart and the spine. I don't even think Hossein is that amazing of a centre half. And you're right, the fullbacks are good, but she is that just general leader. She's had a fantastic season, a Gallardo, Misa Rodriguez-esque season. It's quite impressive. I wonder if she will just become France's number one. It's going to be her and what's her name, Constance Picot, in the realm of who is taking Peru Magnan's safe spot ultimately for a very long time. But left back, we are going to Salma Basha. I really wanted to put in Lou Boggart, but Salma Basha's just the games she did play in this season and the big games she played in. This is the thing. So I've put a lot. I actually have gone with a full Lyon backline, and I understand that they haven't played a lot of matches, but the games that they do, that's what I'm going with, because ultimately we know that Lyon could put out 11 forwards instead of 4 defenders at the back, and they would still smoky winning 8-2 or 8-3, right? But they win 8-0 because players like Salma Basha play 90 minutes earlier on in the season, and they drop 3-4 assists from deep. She had 7 assists in 13 games from left midfield, as you would say. But she smoked PSG. She smoked Paris FC. She was a part of both demolition jobs. The 5-0 against Paris FC in the final, she gets an assist. You have PSG, they win 1-0. Who's player of the match? Salma Basha. And then, I mean, her European form as well was disgusting this season, but she started off the season with 2 assists against Marseille and Saint Etienne, and she's the kind of player. This is what I was going to say about Kaja Korachek later on, and when we were talking about her, it's like Kaja Korachek's future is a player who doesn't necessarily get the GA but drops an 8.5 out of 10 performance, and a player like Salma Basha can go an entire game facilitating chance on chance on chance against good quality opposition and absolutely smoke, like literally not put a foot wrong the entire game, drop a performance. Salma Basha isn't just a footballer, she's a performer, and the stuff she does from the left side, I mean, she's the top 3, no question about it, right? It's Esme Brutes, Salma Basha, and Katie McCabe. And there are sometimes I watch Katie McCabe and I'm like, this is the best left-sided, traditional left back. She can do both ways. She's amazing at that, right? Can she hold up the ball like Salma Basha can? Can she turn on a dime like Salma Basha can? I don't think so. I don't think many.
I think Basha is better a distributor than Katie McCabe.
Yeah, I mean, yes. If we're talking about like genuine cross, final like third, putting it on a dime, final third, early cross, putting it on the head of an Ada or a Katoto, or at the back post a Diani, like. She's masterful at that. Esme Brutes runs onto the chance. She's the one on the end of chances at the back post, right? So they're crossing from Ona on the other side. I wonder how they'll manage that next season. But Katie McCabe is the dead baller. She's the one who can create the spectacular out of nothing. So it's 3 archetypes of left back that are fantastic. It's just what kind of left-sided player do you want? Ultimately, I'm of the ilk of growing up watching players, I don't know, players that were more defensively sound and resolute, which is why I say McCabe is probably my favourite. But I don't know, I'm growing into watching a lot more WOSO, watching Fridolina Rolfo dominate WOSO for a very long time. You kind of get used to this creative left-sided, like masterful, like mercurial wonders of the left side, like Esme and Basha, and you start thinking maybe they are the best left backs in the world. So I have her in. I have Engen and Renard. I mean, both of them just, oh my God, every time they play, I think they conceded like 2 or 3 goals this season, the 2 of them when they played. And I know they didn't play a lot of games, but the games they play aren't against like Lens, aren't against like Marseille or the bottom of the Montpellier. They're playing against PSG. They're playing against Paris FC. They're winning 5-0. They're winning 6-1. And Renard, I mean, this is also new. This is the new kit that's coming. She's going to win the league in this kit. She's going to win a domestic treble in this kit. She's still doing it. I'm going to just put Renard in my team of the season until she stops playing football or she dies, whatever comes first. And the reality is that she's probably going to die before she stops playing football because she's still playing at a disgustingly good level. Like it's crazy the amount of goals she scores. Like it's as a centre half. It's like her whole career. She's been playing since 2007. She averages over 1 in 3 games, right? She's scored 142 goals in 430 games. She's no different this season. This season, we're in her 17th, 20th season. We're about to go into her 20th season, Wendy Renard's 20th season. And she's still going 1 in 3. She dropped a goal against Nantes in an 8-0 win. She dropped a goal against Le Havre in a 3-0 win. And she scored in both legs against Nantes. Nantes finished 4th. It's not like Nantes are terrible. They were a top 4 side in the ARKEMA. She scored in both ties against them, home and away. She is a born and bred winner, and her and Engen, I would argue, has had a better season than her. I think Engen has had better lockdown jobs. I mean, when we're talking about Renard, obviously the goal scoring is crazy. Her passing is, I would say, she's the best passing centre back of all time. Like it's Muppy and her, like on the right side. Like Muppy is the long ball distributor, which is like filth. Like her long ball distribution is unbelievable. It's like scarily accurate, and like she takes corners. Like Muppy Lyon is a centre back who takes corners. Wendy Renard is the end of corners, which makes sense. That's what centre backs are supposed to be. Muppy Lyon, you're not supposed to take the corners of a team. But Wendy Renard is that outside of not outside of the foot, but open up the foot, line that pass to the fullback in the corner. That's just perfectly weighted for the byline, and it goes to, I don't know, a player like Ash Lawrence, a player like Salma Basha, and it's just, that is years and years of experience where you don't make a mistake with that pass. Her aerial duels is a joke, and they have been a joke since I was 6 years old. Her interceptions, her recoveries, I mean, they don't even need that many recoveries, and she's still above average in recoveries because that's how good she is at recovering the ball from the front half of the pitch. She has more shots and more goals, and she wins 90%, 97% of her aerial duels. Like, come on, like it's not even that shouldn't even be a real stat. Like, let's be real, like that number is absurd. But you have a player on the other side like Engen, who has really come into her own as a proper centre half. Like I was still under the impression this is her first season at Lyon. I was under the impression from the Barca move, yes, they needed a centre half. I knew that they were going to play her at centre half, but I was still under the notion that she could do a job in midfield. I was still under the notion that she was pretty.
That's the thing. Yeah, no, obviously so that.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't really put the two and two together. Is that like she doesn't have to play the Lily Johannes, Damaris Egarola role because she's playing in the same position on the field as a 6 would, but playing in centre half. And she, honestly, other than the semi-final and the final of the Champions League, I don't think she put a foot wrong this season. I think she's arguably the most consistent footballer in the team. In the team. Dumornay has ghosty games. There are games where she just didn't score or facilitate, and that's because they put so much energy on her that everyone else plays well. There are games where Chewinga doesn't have the moments, but Engen is always there. not copying anything. Her passing stats are masterful. She has the ball at her feet. She starts most of the attacks. Like it's crazy. She's the one facilitating the tempo deep as a deep lying playmaker. You can arguably call her a deep lying playmaker as a centre half. It's a scary, scary team.
Like from centre half, didn't she get that assist? She kicked it all the way, like one of the first games, and we were like, "This is the Engen that is supposed to be at Lyon. The Engen that gets the ball, hits it long, and it goes straight to I don't know who it was, but they scored."
No, it was Tabitha Chewinga. It was the 1-0 Paris FC early in the season, round 6, and she pinged it over. She got player of the match. She had the most touches. She had the most passes. That's what she does. She doesn't make mistakes. They signed a player that was Barcelona level because that archetype of player doesn't make that mistake, and she is just a brilliant footballer. I really did underrate her capacities. I think she was magnificent at Wolfsburg. She was magnificent at Barcelona, but I didn't know if Lyon were going to utilize her that well. But she is back to her best, I would argue, and she's now just she's just an out-and-out centre-back now. Like, she doesn't need to play. Maybe she does need to play in the 6 for Norway. I don't know if that's the solution, but they also need the defensive help, so I have no issue with her playing deeper, and she clearly likes the lockdown role as well, because that's how she was running and carrying through the Arsenal game, right? Like, she wasn't necessarily great in it, but she had to do a few jobs. I mean, Renard was obviously the standout in that second leg. But as we move to right back, I was thinking Ash Lawrence, but then I'm either shilling the Canadian or I'm shilling my actual fullback that I think deserves to be there, especially the fact that I feel like it would be weird if we don't have the top assister in the league in our team. So I've gone with Sophie Svava. Yes, she's a right back. Yes, she's a left back. No, she's not a right back. Give over. If she played right back, she'd get the same amount of assists. It would be fine. She'd just open up her foot and do it. But her and Bashar have been insane. I think she's been quite impressive. There was a run in the middle of that season where she was doing the business. She was getting player of the match performances in November early on, and had a few games in the Champions League as well. But it was that run in February. It's just like no bad games, really no bad games, and it's quite impressive when you watch her distribution. I think all of these Lyon defenders, their stats are a bit like stat padded in the sense of that their crossing is great, but her chance creation is magnificent. I think that's probably the amazing stat for a player like Sophie Svava. 16 matches, 35 chances created. You do the math, it's over 2 chances created a game from fullback. Like, that's what you need. You need a player who can do that. You need a player who can be in that realm of big chances created and total chances created. Salma Basha played less games and still ended up with the most chances created for the entire season, but it's Dumornay, Svava, and Salma Basha, with obviously Matteo, Karchawi, Lukta, 3 players that you picked as well. Like, it's putting the best of the best other players who chance create. Yeah, so Sophie Svava's creating 3 chances per 90. Salma Basha's creating 4 chances per 90. If you put one on either side of the pitch, expect goals. Expect goals from the wide play. And Sophie Svava, I mean, yes, it was also another move that was considered like, oh, is she Lyon good enough? Is she good enough for that? But her role is to play the games that Salma Basha doesn't. Yeah. And she makes it feel like there isn't a Salma Basha shaped hole in the left side of the pitch, because she can defend as well. Her defensive stats are great. She wins possession in the final third a lot, because, I mean, that's what Lyon's game is. But if Yula Brand doesn't get there and doesn't do the track backing work, which sometimes she, especially in the start of the season, didn't. I mean, you just heard Leggy's team. Yula Brand's not in my team either. Yes, she did come into her own in the latter parts of the season, but was relatively disappointing throughout the middle and early parts of this season to get into her own. But I was very impressed with Sophie Svava throughout this season. This is now her second season at Lyon. She's definitely held her own. I think she's had a better season. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I still think she's held her own. And yes, we will talk about her move eventually. And look, rightfully so. I think she has the capacity to do some serious serious damage in her new club. I mean, this is like an exciting, I don't know, it's an exciting precedent for her to find a new, like, I don't know, it's a new space for her, right? Like, it's a new ability to take on a different league, take on a different ideal. But we'll get to Svava's move eventually. But I'll drop into my midfield of Koracek and Karshawi. We mentioned both of them in deeper positions, deep lying playmakers. Koracek, that V12 engine magic, and runs the game for Paris FC, and Karshawi, who's probably the best talisman maverick in the league. She is an absolute killer. Like, she's so powerful, and like, all the players know that. Like, all the players in the team respect her so much. She's like the celebrations they do when she scores are like all based on, like, they're kind of deifying in a way. They know what she represents to PSG. I wonder what like, if she ends up leaving, what are the ticket sales to PSG without a player like Karshawi in the side? You know, it's a hard sell now that there's no Marius, no Diani, no Katoto. I mean, what are you going to PSG games for? You turn up to PSG, you turn up to the Parc des Princes in a De Classique because Karshawi is playing. She's one of the most exciting French talents that has been in the last half to whole decade, really. But we'll move into the two attacking midfielders. We spoke about them already. We kind of have very similar players, just in different shapes. I have Matteo in the 10, actually, because I think that's what, like, yes, she played up front, but her versatility allows her to play on the wings when Mendy was playing up front, but she's been playing in the 10 a lot this season. My favorite moment of this entire season, where she did that no-look flick pass. I forgot who it was against. I can't remember who it was against, but it was like a no-look flick pass over her shoulder. It was a beautiful pass. It was intuition. It was Russo-esque. It's talent that I don't know, there was talent of her that was unused this season because she's usually more of a goal threat, but she's sacrificed that. I do think of her like Alessia Russo, where I think both of them could score 20 goals a season if they wanted to. They just are more versatile. They are more brilliant than just goals. And I think it is exciting to know that Matteo's future could come in for country, and I want her to play for France. I want her to be that player for France. She hasn't been that just yet, but hopefully she gets the respect and commands the respect now that there is holes and openings for her. There is no more Le Sommer to compete against. There is Kelly Gago and Mallard, but she should be looking at them as very achievable opposition to rival out to be the top French striker, in my opinion. But the right-sided attacking midfielder is Dumornay. Yes, Dumornay. Oh my God. Like, yeah, we covered it. We're going to talk about her more anyway, so I'm just going to leave it there. Like, born killer, watch the talk, you know, like, she is a scary footballer. She is at Lyon, and she is the Lion King. She is the Lion King. She is the king of the jungle. Like, it is just the player you go to when times turned bleak for Lyon. She saved them against Arsenal. She saved them against Juve. She saved them against VfL Wolfsburg. There is saved them against United. Like, the Arsenal earlier in the season, that bloody group stage game. Like, it's seriously, the Lions savior. Like, she is the one true, like, king of the jungle there. But up front, we had Romay, obviously 25 goal contributions, killer, Viv of the Arkema, put it that way. Like, she is a bit umbov. She is a bit, like, taking the piss. But you know what? You're allowed to when you're that good, and you're allowed to command that level of respect. And PSG are allowed to put whatever price tag they want on you, despite the fact that I don't know if you're worth it. But you are a very good footballer in this league, and I hope you continue to do so and keep breaking those records, because you know what? You are worthy of whatever money goes your way, because ultimately you are playing to a level that is worthy of these conversations. Why you're getting links to European contenders, you're getting links to 6-time WSL champions. There's a reason for that. And you're getting links to WSL clubs that are lucrative because people are recognizing your skill and talent in a domestic league that needs to collect more respect. And the other side is the striker, is Tabitha. We mentioned Chewinga already. It's, a very simple team. It's a very similar players. I think we only differ really in the defensive department because of how our formations shape up. But, I mean, there are players I am sad to leave out, but, I mean, ultimately the manager just is a manager who dropped a domestic treble, really. I mean, it's hard to not give it to Giraldez. I mean, yes, you can argue there was poor tactics used in the final, but, I mean, he went invincible this season. The only game he didn't do necessarily well in was the Strasbourg game, but we will get to that at some point. But that is my team. We are going to jump into the player of the season. I mean, I think we both mentioned it. Dumornay. Is there any moments or things you wanted to mention about Dumornay that we haven't mentioned already?
I mean, you're very good on the moments. I kind of looked at her whole campaign and recognized that this was just like dominance to a level that we see from Lyon, but we still don't always take for granted, because like there are eras of Lyon where yes, they're dominant, but there's not necessarily like that big standout player, because it's just the same players playing for Lyon and doing exceptionally well. But I think Melchie has had just one of those seasons coming off the back of last season where it's just been a good, like a just exceptional 2 seasons, and to look at those 2 seasons as a kind of like building of a foundation of this player. She's still young. I think that we'll look back on these 2 seasons and really this season, especially with the Champions League form, as why this player is in those conversations for Ballon d'Or and just in general in those conversations for best player of the season.
You know me, I look at seasons in snapshots. I'm always that person. That's how I do things. There are 2 goals I just have to speak about. Like, one of them you definitely know, and I'm surprised you didn't mention that. But so the final, right? The ARKEMA final, they won 5-0. Melchie scores a hat trick. Second goal is just an absolute, like, it is just like a Parisian like terror attack. Like, it is disgusting what that the way she like hovers inside. It wasn't even like a burst of pace. It was just a hezzy shift in. It wasn't even powerful. Like the one against Manchester United or Arsenal, those ones, she struck it with venom. There was power on it. There's no saving that. You could put, as I said in the talk, you put 2 Saf Madison Patels in goal, not saving that. You put 2 DVDs, Annika Borba, and your new bloody young goalkeeper that you just signed, you're still not saving that. That's fine. But this one is just calm, collected placement, like just graceful football. I think that's the thing that she's gotten. She's no longer just this, like, obviously there's a lot of studies looking at the way in which she's commentated and the way all people of color are commentated within the World Cup, and like I think there is a lot to be said about the way in which we talk about certain players. And obviously Dumornay's like speed and brilliance and strength on the ball is tethered to her rawness and her power, but her gracefulness she's not unnoticed. It's magnificent. She is a magnificently like poised footballer. Her composure on the ball is fantastic, but the ability to just drift away from a player in a final and then just place the ball, it's curving. The goalie doesn't move. Chavas, best goalie in the league, copped 5. This goal is unsavable content. Like, this was a ridiculous goal in a final, and I think that that moment is like everything about that goal was just perfect, like, in my opinion. I think it's a perfect strike. But then you have other moments, like, I don't know, other moments this season, namely a very similar spot. It should have been it should have been also considered in our respective goal of the season stuff. But Dumornay, like, scoring her second goal, she shifts away from her defender against, I forgot who it was, Fleury Murugis, and it just hovers in. It's kind of like a crossy moment, but it's going in the corner. It's going in the corner because that's what she does. She invites the danger. She scores really, really impressive goals from deep as well. Like XG as low as you can, but the Paris FC goal is, I would argue there is something about the aesthetic of the goal. Like maybe there are other players in the world who could do it, but the intentionality of the goal makes it, and the aesthetic of how it looks makes it all the more impressive. And you could easily argue it as goal of the season, not only why she's player of the season, because to score a hat-trick in a final is just an absolute joke, but she's been magnificent. The entire ARKEMA campaign has just been a testament to. This will be known as like effectively the season that Dumornay was 90 minutes away from a Ballon d'Or.
Yeah. And I think, you know what, like the fact that we don't talk about her as this kind of like Frankensteinian monster of like an Ewa Pio and a Pina, like she's kind of fits within those two realms, you know, the Pina slotting top corner, and then the like acceleration and the pace and the strength of someone like Ewa Pio. If you look at the stature of those three players, they share a lot of similarities, and I think that there's something to be said about, yes, you touched on it before.
Just ball stuck to her feet like Caro. She's got every aspect of every good player that we love and have loved for the last 5 years, and she's just putting the pieces together. I love the Frankensteinian like parable because it is the best of Pina, it's the best of Caro, it's the best of Pio, it's even the put the team on the back like Aitana Bonmati. Like it's like, who did they go to when they were 1-0, when they were 2-1 down against your lot, a team that has European pedigree, a team that is defending champions? It didn't faze her. Clearly, she went into the Groupama and decided that this is it. Like, this is the game where I'm gonna show how good I am and how good I have been this entire season, and put my team on the back. And that's how she facilitated the first chance. That's how she facilitated that Yul LeBron chance, which has so much weight of pass and precision on that ball. Like that's a season in a snapshot right there. Is Melchie Dumornay putting her team on her back once again? Yes, it was in Europe, but she did it in that final as well. Who else, right? It's a who else situation. But in speaking of who else, we're going to speak of underrated player of the season. I mean, I was genuinely considering to go the entirety of Paris FC. Like, just say the entire club is underrated. But we did mention Lou Boggs, so I can't put her in. I was going to mention Ndongala, but I think Ndongala's got another season to get there. So I'm going to go with a player that was very, very close to getting into my team. Yes, I could have put in Lily Johannes, but no one in the world would ever say underrated. In fact, I think she's arguably as overrated as it gets, in the sense of that she's correctly rated. She just like is considered like the greatest footballer on earth, and she's already not that. She's not that yet. But I've gone with a player who really needs more praise. It is, you just got mogged, Annael Le Moguedec. Yeah, this girl is look, unfortunate naming, because I'm just gonna call she is the Mog. She is the Mog, right? I'm always just gonna call her Le Mog, but Kaja Koroshek needs someone to pass to, right? This is the girl. This is the girl. She's the absolute girl, and she is so good. She was good in the Champo. She was good in the league. She was very, very solid across this season, and all of it was in the forward play. Like it's really successful passing. It's really successful dribbling. It's great aerial jewels for a player who's not necessarily tall, quite diminutive player who can play on the left. She can play in the middle. She can play defensively. She's got good defensive contributions from deep. I would argue one of the best in the league from the 10, the left side. She's a workhorse, just like Koroshek. She's built of the same stuff. She rightfully earned her France caps this season. I mean, she only had one Nations League cap in 2025, but 2026 got no French caps. But now she's had 4 in the qualification phases. Is getting substitute minutes. She got 62 minutes against the Dutch. So she is getting her rightful plaudits and praise and reward for her efforts in the Champions League, where she smoked Benfica almost single-handedly, where she smoked Marseille in the league, where she's putting in stellar performances against Strasbourg from the middle of midfield, creating chance on chance on chance. It is impressive what she can do at home. I'd like her to provide that form a little bit more away from home. I think that's the only caveat I have to her game, is that I think she is a little bit of like, yes, okay, she is a little bit of a home, like she needs to be an away day like success as well, and I think a lot of players can get comfortable at home, but obviously against the top sides, against teams like Lyon, Paris FC, PSG going to the Parc des Princes, Paris FC will struggle, but I want her to be able to facilitate that form away from home, and she's not always going to do that, and it's a hard thing to like replicate as a whole because you can't just choose when you're going to play well. But yeah, a development in Champions League level, but even then, like I think she was like, they drew to Lyon earlier in the season, that 0-0, and she smoked on that left side. She absolutely did Dumornay. She did Lindsay Heaps. She had them covered for defensive contributions from the middle of midfield, drifting wide. They were a very resolute back eight, I guess. It was two banks for four in that way, but yeah, Annael Le Moguedec, I hope you just keep getting better and you just keep mogging everyone, honestly.
I love the pick because I think that she's one of those traditional like spine merchants. I think that she just can play anywhere in the middle of the park and just dictate.
She's metronomic.
Play. She's very metronomic.
Like, you know what I said about Lisanne Gros for the Frauen and Greggy for Italy, right? Le Moguedec is the same thing. It's the balance. Like, yes, it's very easy for France to go into the next tournament with Bonadé and play Guilloro, you play Karchaoui, you play Matteo in the 10. Where's the balance? Where's the structure? Where's the metronomic player that can hold up play, then go forward, right? Those three players, Lisanne Gros, Le Moguedec, and Greggy. I mean, Greggy is the least, I would say, is the least underrated of the three because, I mean, Greggy's rightfully getting her plaudits for winning a double. But Le Mog and Gros are two players that need to be playing arguably first team football for their country, because that's how you rival against the top five sides. You have to trust your best ball playing, deep lying playmakers to dribble around the best of the best, to trust them to run back and work hard to get back. Because if Le Moguedec gets tackled by Patrick Guiharo will run away, but I could trust Le Moguedec to run and put pressure on that ball, even if she loses the ball. But I know that if Guiharo gets tackled, that's it. I don't see Guiharo getting back to that level. And I understand Guiharo has an accrued like meritocracy in this team where she has been absolutely spectacular for France. I don't disagree with that in any way. But there has to be a cause for like legacy over the fact that Le Moguedec has rightfully earned a place in this French crop because of the performances she's put in this season. Whereas if it was just on performance, like strict meritocracy instead of legacy, then you have a situation where I don't even think Guiharo would get a sniff in the French national team.
Okay. And I think it's a great pick, and I think it also kind of aligns with my pick when we're talking about kind of potential and what these players can do given the right environment. I've gone with Julie Swierot as my underrated player of the season. This is somebody outside of the three big teams, and I think that, you know, if we talk about underrated, we talk about teams that are, yes.
You could have just said Nantes as a whole team. Yeah, Nantes, underrated as a prospect. Swierot, what a baller.
I mean, and it kind of is cheating because, like, of course, I wanted to pick a player outside of the top three, but this is a player that is on loan from Lyon. This is her second loan deal in 2 years.
She's a Maylene Mendy merchant.
Yeah. And in both years, she's proven why Lyon are keeping this player in their ranks. She's scored 2 goals this year, got 6 assists, the top assists at Nantes, playing 21 games. And this was a very, very strong Nantes season, and I think that she was one of the reasons for it. And again, I talk about potential, and I think that this is a player not necessarily at the top of their game right now. They don't have to be there. She's 20 years old. She played this season when she was 19. She doesn't have to be a world-class footballer, but the way that she was able to dictate tempo from the center of the park moving forward into the final third, the way that she's so intelligent off the ball. I think some of her movements off the ball are so underrated. She scored the goal, the single goal that got them the draw against her parent club, Lyon. And I think that is one of the best games of the season when we talk about teams. And you know me, I love when teams that are kind of in that monopoly state are kind of, challenged a bit. And I thought that was a great game that Nantes challenged Lyon, and it didn't come out of nowhere.
They smoked them. What do you mean? They completely smoked them. They absolutely overrun them. They deserved
how
more.
Many shots?
Yeah, 24 shots versus 7, and they should have won that game. They're just unlucky that Christiane Endler had a blast from the past. She clearly was on that AKB run where, I mean, ultimately they benefited. I mean, look, they benefited from the fact that Lyon were still in that like resting Champo phase. I mean, that this Lyon side is averaging age of 22.8 with Fatala and Marmelo in the team, and Marmelo ended up scoring, which was quite impressive. But I can't believe Swierot was even allowed to play in that game because I thought you're not allowed to play against your parent club. But I mean, everyone in this non-side deserves a respective unsung hero. I mean, Emily Burns, Canadian legend, has been fantastic for Nantes this season, has the most saves per 90 of any goalkeeper. A player like Mariam Taloba, who you are going to see bits and bobs of in European qualification alongside Tessa Valhert for Belgium with her goals that she scored, and has now made her move to Paris FC as well. So you're going to see a lot more of her potentially in Champions League as well, because she is a born and bred striker. And then you have a player like Leah Khalifi, who had an amazing season and rightfully earned her move to Juventus. It's this situation where Nantes aren't able to do what Paris FC does because of their lucrative bounding, and players who play well enough get pipped, right? That's what happens, and it's such a shame. Like, they're youngsters as well that are coming through. I really liked Melissa Beattie. She was really good in the middle. I think Raban, the OG, I think she's the only one of that like OG ilk of Nantes who, I mean, look, she's been around the grounds for a while. She's been playing first team football in Paris FC since 2010, right? Wow. So she's been around. She's 37 years old. She just got a move from Nantes to Toulouse. So like half this Nantes side has just decided to like pack their stuff up after an incredible season. But it makes sense because this is what happens when you have a really good season. Players get noticed. These players are on relatively low contracts in the medium tier, I wouldn't say low tier, but the B to C tier of the ARKEMA, and it's easy money to go after a player like Khalifi, who looks Champions League ready, a player like Taloba, who's Champions League ready, a player like Emily Burns, who would be a good backup goalie for any European side. And Swierot is absolutely no different in the sense of that. I think she will just kind of dissolve into the Lyon model because they have so many players of the Swierot ilk, namely Maylene Mendy, Liana Joseph, Vicky Besho. Like, yes, Diani is one less, but do I see Swierot having a season like Fatala or Marmela? Like, I don't know. I really don't know what the future holds for a player like Swierot.
I think that the thing that, if we're talking about like how French football is growing and adapting, is they've recognized, and I think this is one of the reasons why they really were stifled for the first real 10 years of Lyon's growth in kind of this symbiotic relationship with the national team, is because I don't think that the national team recognized that Lyon were the ones producing the stars. They were the ones with the academy, and they were the ones that were sending their players off to other French teams and being able to build those and have 20 games a season for a player like Swierot. So I think that it's important that if France are going to start picking players from the league, we've seen it with the rise of the Paris FC people or players coming and playing more caps, having more caps in the France team. If that's going to happen, then there needs to be a symbiotic relationship. There needs to be a recognition that Lyon are the hegemon of this league. They are the people who are going to produce the young stars. Swierot being an example of that. She goes over to Nantes, plays 20 odd games a season, and can play in your under 23s tournament and win you an under 23s Euros or whatever, and that can be your next generation. Swierot can play in the next generation of France teams. Yes, this generation may not win a World Cup, but like France shouldn't be looking short-sightedly. They should be seeing long-term what Lyon and PSG are being able to produce with their academies and how they can utilize that in the future.
I don't disagree at all. And we will move into goal of the season. There are a lot of goals to talk about ultimately. There are some really cool goals. There are some very interesting goals that probably shouldn't have gone in, and then there are some masterful goals, as we will mention. But I'm going to start with, I have a few to mention just as honourable mentions because they don't want to go unnoticed. Lukta had 2 really nice chips this season, as I spoke about them both. One of them was in a hat-trick performance against Lens. The composure was absolutely brilliant. One of them was very Viv-esque from a lot deeper, which was quite impressive. Number 4 is Ngok. Ngok is also a player that probably gets unsung in a way. I think she's a very good footballer who made her move to Spirit literally not that long ago. Like, she hasn't played for Spirit yet. She is well and truly Kang-pilled at this moment, but she did play for Fleury against Paris FC on the 29th of March in a 2-1 loss, and Ngok scored this chip of all chips. Like, it's 100% better than Romain Lukta's both chips that she had. Number 3 was Karchaoui versus Nantes. I mean, Karchaoui's goal, oh my days. This is the one where she got the celebration where she was being deified, like, no question about it. This was a ridiculous goal. Very impressive goal. This was also on the 29th of March. So that was the same day as the Ngok goal. So this was clearly a good round 19 of the ARKEMA Smokies, full-on Smokies. But number 2, we have Hanneken Skywalker, am I right? But Hanneken Skywalker had a brace and ultimately a winner in a game versus Montpellier. So Hanneken is an interesting player because she plays for Strasbourg. Strasbourg had a very interesting season in the ARKEMA because they had some amazing games and then some disappointing games. But this Montpellier game, I mean, this goal, I don't know how she scored this. This was on the 15th of Jan. This was in round 11. She scored in the 62nd minute after scoring the goal in the 7th minute, which was also a spectacular strike. Like, both of her goals were absolutely brilliant. And then the girl who scored the goal on the other side, Justine Roquet, she scored 2 goals this season that I think were amazing, but she scored an amazing goal in this game. But it was number 1. Like, I've thought about it enough. It's Dumornay's goal in the final. It's just the moment of the season. It's the moment that's going to be remembered the most. I think sometimes you just have to give the goal of the season, not necessarily to the hardest goal. I think Hanneken's goal, or Karchaoui's goal, namely, is harder to score. But I think Dumornay's goal will be remembered for the history books as this opus moment of, I am the best player at Lyon now. Look at me and my work.
Well, I mean, it's a great goal, and I think that the Ligue 1 have some really, as you mentioned earlier, some really interesting goals. I recognized that there was one goal that was my honourable mention, and then there was an actual goal of the season. My honourable mention I only mentioned because I like to shit on Mary Earps. The Roquet versus PSG 50-yard
Roquet,
strike.
yeah, the other goal. I was wondering if you'd mention that. But
the only
Mary
reason
Earps.
why this isn't the goal of the season is because Merps got her fingertips on it as she was running back, and that just aesthetically, I don't love that. I like it when it completely beats the keeper. But
for any Menso fans out there, think of Cavani's goal. For United with the flick on from Bruno Fernandes and the chip, and then I forgot who's diving back and it gets their hand on it. It arguably makes it better when a goalie gets their hand on it because it's like
a save.
They could have it was just too perfect. Like, they just get a finger on it where you can't get there. Like, that's the perfect weight of strike. But if that's your honourable mention, who's the winner?
My winner is Camille Marmot for against Nantes for Lyon. This is the game I mentioned earlier. Like, Swierot did an amazing job, and then Malamo did another amazing job in the opener for this game. She basically gets the ball on the right hand pocket. It is crowded as hell, and she takes it out of her feet, and it is like a strike with her right foot, completely going diagonal away from her far post. The goalkeeper, yes, is about 3 feet outside of her goal, but it's a completely unexpected shot and was just so incredible upon rewatch and actually watching it then as well. I was like, shit, this is what a goal. But for a 1-1 game, they had it was a very interesting game and had some of the good goals that you'd see in the ARKEMA.
I mean, it's also just the age of
she's young as hell.
a player
She's
like
19.
Camille Marmelot. Like, the future is bright. Again, it's another player like Swierot. Like, what is the future for a player like that? I mean, it is a ridiculous try. I think that's their first goal in the ARKEMA as well. If I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
the way in which the goal was celebrated, I believe. I think it would have been her first goal
presume for,
in the
like a
ARKEMA. She only
child,
played.
yeah.
She's only played 2 games for Lyon, but then has played a lot of games in the youth team and the under 17. So I don't know what the future is for a player like Camille, but that is a wonderful, masterful strike, and rightfully put into a top goals of the season, 100%. We're going to move into the best game. My honourable mentions are all 3 games that PSG got deducted points for. Florian Jord, player of the season, am I right?
Yeah.
I think so. No question about that. I mean, I just don't understand how you have no ITC register. Like this is, as
stupid.
someone... Yeah, but how do you think you're gonna get away with the fact that you
they're
didn't
PSG.
do anything?
They are
but that's just
PSG.
ridiculous. That's just ridiculous in every way. But number 3, I had Strasbourg v Montpellier. That was the Hanneken's goal, the Roque rocket. Every moment of that game, the absolute moments game of Strasbourg Montpellier, a game that would literally be thrown away in history if it weren't for us. Like no one would know of this game if it weren't for us watching this game and notifying the fact that this game was an absolute thriller between 2 sides who probably, I don't know, they are just WSL pack sides in that way. Like they wouldn't be, I don't know, they wouldn't even necessarily make the pack. Do you think Montpellier, ending on 15 points this season, who I mean, obviously their goal difference was 13 ahead of Lens, but are on the same points as a relegation side, end up with more or less points than Liverpool, in my opinion? I think Liverpool beat Montpellier.
Yeah, I mean, I think Leicester beat a majority. Leicester beat the
exactly.
bottom
Does
teams.
Leicester might beat Montpellier? So you have a situation where Strasbourg, who finished 7th, play Montpellier, who are 10th, and you have an absolute box office game, which I love. Number 2, this game, Montpellier versus PSG. There's a lot in this game. I think I'll leave it to you to talk about. But number 1, no question about it for me, is Strasbourg versus Lyon. This was Lyon's blemish. The 2 of Lyon's 3 blemishes that were, I mean, look, all of them were relatively respectable in that way. Like, I think the game against the game against Nantes, the 1-1 was very entertaining and you had some good moments. The game against Paris FC is a 0-0, so in my opinion, it's kind of a bit stinky, and no one really was able to capitalize on the fact that the defensive prowess of Chavasse and Graboval and Le Moguedec were just brilliant. But this 2-2 where you had a chase down play, you had the arrival of a player like Amber Barrett to snatch a second goal to put the pressure on Lyon, right? This was a 2-1. This was a chase down from Lily Johannes, who was playing deep at some points in this game. Like Nelage was playing centre back. You had their formation was all over the shop, but the thing was that they were fantastic to watch. Strasbourg again, Hanneken, another assist in a big game, right? Amber Barrett, goal off the bench, brilliant. But it was, Hegerberg who came on and got the assist for Johannes in a 2-2 draw at the Stade de la Mignon. But I definitely fucked that up, but who cares? I mean, I don't know if Amber Barrett would be able to pronounce it either, you know? Mate, it's fair, but like, she's a baller. I rate her so highly. Her like ability to hunt down a goal, her knack for goal. I think she's going to do some damage for Ireland, and has been. I mean, that goal in the Netherlands game in the 3-2 to get a goal in the 90th minute with 10 players is, I mean, look, that says it all, right? Like, that shows the never say die nature of her. And it was the arrival of her. It was just a legacy game, and Lily Johannes showing her form and prowess. And I think she's kind of unlucky in a way to not end up in any of our awards, Lily Johannes. So this game is basically a testament to both Amber Barrett and Lily Johannes' seasons as well.
I don't care about Amber Barrett or Lily Johannes. I'm going back to the game that was the most entertaining. The last 10 minutes, specifically the Montpellier versus PSG game.
Yeah, but Leggy, I don't like Montpellier. That's why.
Yeah, good point.
I'm
Like, justice for Mary Fowler. Like,
Yeah,
Queen,
exactly.
I support you, but your ex-team
But maybe this game
us...
is more. Yeah. Maybe this game is more traumatizing for them because of how they lost it. That's why.
Well, there you go. Well, obviously it gave us one of the goals of the season. It also gave us just like an incredible like comeback from PSG. Kachawi's late minute goal was amazing. Not necessarily the best taken goal, but to be in that position and to strike it in that way, the kind of half volley situation, she's incredible. And I think that this is kind of the entertaining aspect of the Ligue 1 that does, like, we don't necessarily see a lot of goals. Like, yes, there are big blowouts from Lyon, but when we're watching games against basically fifth down, it's 1-1s, it's 2-1s. And to have a 2-3 from genuinely, like, Montpellier did not, as you said earlier, did not compete at the level that they probably have been competing since basically 2017. But they went up against PSG, who came third, who are, you know, established giants in France, and they gave them a game. And PSG, to the credit to them, they came back and they showed the class that you need to have for the top sides in France.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, Montpellier kind of pulled it out the bag. This is a top six side of the last, I don't know, what are we talking about, last 5 years, 10 years? Like, they are always in and amongst it. I mean, obviously you have legacy teams that have gone down to the ARKEMA too. Teams like, I don't know, Guingamp have disappeared from that mix. I mean, maybe Mbok should leave PSG to go back to Guingamp, back to her roots and get them back up to the ARKEMA. Maybe that would be a good project for her. But that is all we have for the ARKEMA, and that is all we have for part 1 of the podcast.